Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Pellegrino.
I'm Jenna Brister.
And we are back for season 4 of a very
Merry
iconic
podcast,
where the two of us recap all the holiday movies we love and some that we don't love so much.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in. 'Tis the season.
That's right. We're covering some classics this year. We are recapping the entire Santa Claus trilogy. We're going to be diving into a Halloween movie this year.
Yes, Hocus Pocus 2.
That's right, the sequel. We also have I'll Be Home for Christmas starring Jonathan Taylor Thomas. So we are leaning into the home improvement of it all. And if you want to follow along, you can go to Instagram. It's at A Very Merry Iconic Podcast on Instagram. And be sure to listen, subscribe, tell a friend.
Have a very merry, iconic day.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's Friday, January 22nd, 2021, and it's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang. And before I introduce the cast, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Apartment Life. You've got to check out what Apartment Life is doing. They believe every individual is created for a community. So they're building that community among apartment neighbors. They're looking for folks right now who love Jesus, get excited about hospitality, and really take the opportunity to be with people when life gets tough. And get this, they equip you, they walk alongside you, and provide you with either a reduced rent apartment or a part-time salary. You don't want to miss this life-changing opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus to neighbors, especially these days. And right now, they have a special offer just for our listeners. If you go to apartmentlife.org/relevant, you can apply for this life-giving program, and you can also get 10% off in the Apartment Life swag shop. Go check it out, apartmentlife.org/relevant to apply and get 10% off their swag. Well, like I said, I'm your host, Cameron, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
You're really close to D.C. From Austin, Texas, author, podcaster, Jamie Ivey.
Hey, guys.
And from Nashville, Tennessee, artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
I am living louder and brighter than Lady Gaga's brooch right now, everyone. Did you guys peep that brooch?
Lady Gaga looked amazing.
It looked like she dipped a live dove into gold and just pinned it to herself. Like it was a life-size dove.
It might have been.
What are you talking about? I didn't see. What
At
are you
the
talking
inauguration, she sang
did
the
that
national
happen
anthem.
this week? Did that happen?
It seems like a lifetime ago.
I've been playing a lot of Candy Crush this week.
Yeah, it actually happened. And Lady Gaga took the stage and before J-Lo, which, what an upgrade, right? We had Lady Gaga and J-Lo. Because if this the election had gone the other way, it'd be Kevin Sorbo and Diamond and Silk headlining, and what a glow up! Let's go! What a glow up! But anyway, she had this brooch on, and I'm like, dude, it looks like that is a life-size dove. It was swag it was the most audacious brooch I've ever seen, and I appreciated it.
I loved it. I loved it.
You got to dress for the camera. You got to dress for the size of the venue. You know, the scale is different than normal.
Yeah. You want to see that from the back of the National Mall. Yeah, all our National Guard troops that have created an impenetrable fortress. At least they could see it from the back.
Minus the 23 that were removed because they. Did you see that?
No.
Out of the 20,
it was 23 of them.
Because they went through and looked at their backgrounds?
Yep, and they found 23 of them that were linked to extremist groups in their personal life, and so they removed them from guard duty because they thought it was an inside job potential. So
good, I'm glad.
Well, I guess that's not bad. 23 out of 2,500, but I mean, you gotta expect. Yeah. Oh, 25,000. Yeah, you gotta expect that they're. You know, come on, guys.
If we learned anything,
you guys are shocked, are you?
No, well, if we learned anything from January 6th is that the people that you would think would be there, well, they were there, but then the people you would think weren't there, they showed up too. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, for sure.
It's, yeah. Ugh.
I mean, black folk been telling y'all that, I mean, we've been saying it, for a while about, like the police having like white supremacists and a lot of military guys. And you gotta listen to black people. You feel me? Like, I know y'all not shocked by now, though, right?
Hey, so I do have one inauguration note, Cameron, if it's okay. That we
you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of how white supremacist police brutality. You don't want to open up that can of worms that Derek's lobbing up for you. You want to pivot towards something else.
We can do it.
No. Let's pivot because my DMs are already in shambles every day. The last thing I need right now is more DMs.
If we and sadly, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, America's horrible reckoning with white supremacy is probably just beginning here. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is an awareness, to Derek's point, that, I think a lot of people in different parts of the country or different political affiliations, either were unaware of or willfully ignorant of that are being exposed. And it's going to be something that is going to be a topic of national, rightly so, for a long time. I think that reckoning is really kind of coming to the surface.
Wait, we just had MLK Day this week. I thought that MLK got rid of all this stuff. Like, what do you mean, Jesse? That's what people think, for real.
I love Jamie. I'm for real, yo. Hey, if you know how many times I heard that nonsense.
Hey, Derek, tell me about the DMs situation right now.
Like,
who is it that's bothering to reach out to you privately? Are they thinking that they're going to change your mind? Are they defending?
I think they're I think a lot of times it's just somebody venting. You know what I mean? Like it's. Yeah. So this is the thing.
Do you take pictures of them? Because I take pictures of mine. I can read it
for law enforcement.
Just so that I can read them, go back and read and see how dumb it is.
Like a lot of times it's someone. So it's you get two different people. You get the person that's genuinely trying to convince you that white supremacy isn't white supremacy, and it's like. They're like, they're wet. It's like they're a fish, they're in water, they have no clue that they're wet and they are drenched. Right. They just don't know, but they're trying, they're probably good people. You know what I mean? They would probably pull, they probably bring me to their house for biscuits and gravy or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's super dope. Then you have the other people that are just livid that I would dare denounce it. Or it's like the QAnon guys, like, you don't see the big thing. It's about policy. It's about this. And it's a bunch of like scattered stats and really weird things from like dark corners of the internet. I have no clue how they got there. So it's those two people, you know what I mean? But it's crazy.
My thing is like, why are you following Derek Minor?
I say that all the time. Yeah. I say, just unfollow. Just unfollow.
But it's probably, I mean, the DMs I'm sure gets exhausting, but I think, Derek, it is a positive thing that there are people who obviously think extremely differently than you and have a different worldview, a different lived experience, but still value your art and your voice enough to continue to follow you, even though you continually challenge them. I think that's a credit to you as a person, but also your ability to communicate in a way that's intelligent, pointed, but also funny.
Yeah, I think people wrestle with the idea that, 'cause we live in such a world where you have to be literally right or left. You have to be red or blue. And like, I don't really have a problem with just, I don't being really, purple. Yeah, I'm like, whatever, if it's stupid to me, I don't care who did it. I'm gonna make a joke about it. And I think they just kind of wrestle with that. And I'll give people space to wrestle with it. The only way that I'll be like, unfollow me is when you're just like mad disrespectful. Right, then I'm going to make a fool out of you in front of everybody. So, I get this a lot in mine is I'm so very disappointed in you. Right. Like I really care. I'm like, I don't even, I did not even know you existed. Okay. Right. Yes. That's some mom energy right there. I talk to Aaron about this all the time, and that it's not like DMs, like they don't bother me. I don't respond, all those things. But when someone says I'm so disappointed in you, there's something there that's like,
wow, that kind of hurts a little bit deeper. Like, you're so disappointed in me. And I think people just feel like because Instagram is so like visual that they have this like I would be welcoming to their disappointment, but I don't actually know them, you know? And I think it puts people just think they know you.
Do you give them space to that affect you? I mean, because to me, I'm like, you don't know me. Your opinion or approval or disapproval does not factor into my well-being at all. I don't care.
I take it like this. If you're not going to take advice from someone, like you can't take criticism from them either. And I don't know you. And so the fact that you're disappointed in me, sometimes I'll be honest, it does sting a little like, man, like I don't remember the last time someone looked me in the eyes and said, Jamie, you're such a disappointment. And so it feels different, but I also Jan, I don't know you. And so that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. For me, so I'm disappointed in you, or I'm never buying your albums again. And I'm like, one, you probably never bought them. So that's number one. Two, it's $10. Right. I already got it. Thank you. I appreciate you. And you know what I mean? So I'm kind of at that level. But with the disappointment thing, I think the thing for me is like, I'm more like, I'm like, I don't know you. Like, I didn't even know you existed until you tweeted or you Instagram. So it's like, I'm not even trying to be a jerk, but I've kind of, like my mom says I'm disappointed in you, different.
Exactly.
My friends say I'm disappointed in you, different.
Exactly.
Random guy that's mad that I won't engage in his white supremacy, that's disappointed in me. Thank you. I'm glad you're disappointed in me because I wouldn't want you to be proud of me. You know,
I've like made an intentional shift in the last couple of years where I have people around me that I've asked and invited in to say, hey, help me see my blind spots.
Yes.
Point out if I hit the bumper rail, help me see what I'm not seeing. And over the last 2 years, I've gotten calls and texts from those friends saying, hey, buddy, I saw this thing you posted. You doing okay? That kind of thing. And I'll listen to them because 100%. I trust them. There's a relationship there and I've invited that.
Yep.
But if somebody's going to say something on the internet, I just block them or mute them. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't need this. So, like, I just,
When someone tells me, Jesse, I'm disappointed in you, whether it's a perfect stranger online or someone in my life, I go like this. I get that. That's honestly fair. That's fair. I'm disappointed too.
That's a good call.
That is a good call.
Jesse just owns it.
We're both disappointed in me.
It's mutual.
I think we share. I don't know what you're disappointed about, but the whole I get that. Yeah. And
I've been trying to lose 10 pounds for 10 years. I'm disappointed in myself too.
There's a lot I'm disappointed in.
You know what though?
I thought for now, I thought by now I would have won the lottery or come up with been a part of a cool bank heist. That just hasn't shaken out. I'm disappointed too, friend. Yeah.
But I realize some of that is also emotional manipulation. Like they're saying that you can't be disappointed.
It's that mom energy.
Yeah.
And it's behind a screen. You can say anything to anybody that you don't have to look them in the eyes.
Yeah, and how can you be disappointed in me if we don't know each other? Like you literally you don't know who I am. So how can you be disappointed in me? It's emotional manipulation because they want to make you lament from what you said and then go back and then do what they want, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not based in any truth or whatever. So I'm not being manipulated by some random.
No, Cameron, you asked me if it bothers me. That doesn't bother me. You know what does bother me when someone sends me a message though? And this is when I might send back an angry DM that I regret the next morning is when someone calls into question my love for Jesus. Like you walked away from the truth. Like the one they sent me, like it said like her final after a whole like literally long page. Friend, we're not friends. I don't know. I've never met her. Friend, you are looking more like the world in your preaching. I pray that the Spirit guide you back. Like when someone calls into question like my faith and my love for the Word and Jesus, that's when I'm like, you don't know me. Like you don't know. Nuh-uh.
Jamie, you do have a tattoo.
I have a lot of tattoos.
I
drink milkshakes.
I wonder.
Well, and I will say this. I've been on the other side of it. There's been people I've been disappointed in, and I've deleted the DM. My pillow guy. I was like, bro, you're out there slinging pillows. That's fine. I respect the game. Right now, I'm pretty disappointed in the whole overthrowing of Western democracy thing. I'm disappointed, friend.
I'm like, we need to get into pillows because he's got private jets and I
gotta get it popping. I need to make me a pillow tomorrow. That's a lot of pillows
he's got to sell. You know what I'm saying? To pay for just the gas on that flight to go to DC. I'm just going, That's a lot of pillows.
That must be a pretty dang good pillow.
I've heard it's not. I've heard the pillow is not that great.
What?
It's more of a
Are you serious?
I read a review. I read a My Pillow review, and they said
it's just a bunch of like crumbs. It's like a bunch of like foam crumbs, and so you can like do whatever, but it's like bumpy and like oatmeal. You know, like this chunky. It's a chunky pillow.
Who wants a chunky pillow?
Hey, Derek, the review I read was it may have had some partisan bias because I believe the line was something. I got robbed of more sleep by Mike Lindell's pillow than his absurd claims about overthrowing democracy. About my worries about him overthrowing.
That person probably doesn't even have a pillow.
All right. Well, we have a great show in store for you today. You know, I was going to start things off by going, hey, inauguration's behind us. The turbulent political era is over. We can move forward, and this will be a political free zone. You know, y'all, it's going to be fun again. The Relevant Podcast is going to be fun again. Well, guess what? Our guest today is going to bring some important content that we need to wrestle with as a church. Dr. Russell Moore is joining us today. He's a preacher. He's the president of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. We're going to talk about how the church can rise above divisiveness and how we actually can move forward as a big C church. A very important conversation.
I love Dr. Moore so much. I'm such a fan of his, so I'm glad he's on here.
Me too. I mean, there's only been a handful of voices, honestly, in church leadership over the last 4 to 6 years. I'd put Beth Moore in this category, Dr. Russell Moore, unrelated, in this category. But there's been very few voices that have been speaking truth and love, but like, you know, speaking out like, hey, the church has gotten off track here. And Dr. Moore is one of them, and we're honored to have him today.
Can I make one more quick inauguration note before we move on and put
one
this
final
chapter
one
behind us?
Are you watching it right now as we record, Jesse?
No, I was watching it earlier, right before earlier, and I was fascinated.
Just to give everybody context, we are recording on Wednesday midday. Right now, the inauguration is happening. So,
and I still kind of have my nose out for relevant-y stories, whatever. And I thought the story of, I didn't know anything about the Bibles that when you get sworn in as president, you know, obviously you place your hand on a Bible and you can provide your own. And the one that now President Biden used was a 127-year-old family heirloom. It's like a phone book.
It was ginormous.
It was huge. It was massive. It's been in his family for 130 years, basically. Wow. It's got a lot of history. But if you're incoming president, you can use one that has sort of a sentimental value, or you can use like George Washington's Bible. But I was thinking about like, I'm very excited for the first millennial president, like the first president who is currently a millennial, because I want to see them on the stairs of the Capitol with one of those hot pink teen study Bibles. And so like, this is the heirloom. This is... I carried this through youth group.
A True Love Waits Bible.
Yeah, the True Love. Yeah, the Claim Your Territory adventure. You know, listen. I solemnly swear on this every man's battle, acquire the fire, New Testament, and Proverbs and Psalms. This I want to have an Old Testament. the every man's battle Bible.
Gideon's Bible.
Protect the Constitution. Yeah,
I love it.
I love it.
So I just think that would be a very nice gesture for fellow millennials who grew up going to youth group, acquire the fire, and then reading BuzzFeed articles. I just feel like that would, you know, really kind of unite that generation behind a
I agree.
All right. Well, in addition to Dr. Moore, we also have Relevant Recommends, our new segment, What's Jesse Thinking? And up next, stay tuned, it's Relevant News.
When I'm on my own, and I recognize I'm falling for you, and I'm caught up in the way that you move. We were meant to be together in this life. Well, the only way that we know is if we try.
You're listening to Knox Fortune. The song is Compromise. Well, today's episode is brought to you by podcast creation platform Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. There are custom tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and every major platform. The cool thing is you can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, it's time for
Relevant News.
Please welcome to the show Relevant Senior Editor Tyler Huckabee to bring us what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture this week. Hey, Tyler, anything going on?
I feel like every week we get together, we kick one of these off with a there's so much happening right now, and we're not talking about any of it because we don't even know what's because I don't know what's gonna be happening by Friday. By the time people listen to this, as we speak, the president and the new vice president are being sworn in to a new inauguration, and they have a very ambitious 24-day plan ahead of them today. They got a busy day, but obviously by Friday, time people hear this, they're going to know more about what went on than we do right now. So we're not talking about it.
We literally, Tyler and I got together before the show to talk about Relevant News, and we're just going down the list of all the stuff we're covering at Relevant today. And we were like, it was so many big important things. And I was just like, I don't know. Can we find something that's not so important? You know what I mean? Like, we all are following important stuff. Well, I miss our old news, So anyway,
so we did find something, and this actually happened. This came out just ahead of last weekend, and it's big news, and it kind of got buried underneath all the other things that are happening. But it is important, and it's a story that we've been following for a while here at Relevant, and we're going to talk about a non-controversial topic: the National Rifle Association. I
bet.
We're turning down the volume here at Relevant
Let's
News.
do it. Crank it up.
So the NRA is one of the most powerful and influential advocacy groups in the U.S., or it was. It filed for bankruptcy last Friday as part of a massive organizational restructuring. The group is actually moving from New York City, where it's been for many, many years, to Texas, which is kind of surprising. They weren't already there, honestly.
Right.
Already
Yes.
The NRA head, Wayne LaPierre, released a statement. This is what he said. He said, quote, "Today, the NRA announced a restructuring plan that positions us for the long term and ensures our continued success as the nation's leading advocate for constitutional freedom, free from the toxic political environment of New York." He said, under the plan, the NRA will continue what we've always done, confronting the anti-gun, anti-self-defense, and anti-hunting activities and promoting the constitutional advocacy that helps law-abiding Americans. Our work will continue as it always has. No major changes are expected to the NRA's operations or workforce. Now, that's a lot of words, but there's obviously a very big story behind all this. This move follows last year's really astonishing lawsuit from New York Attorney General Letitia James, who alleged a $64 million fraud among higher-ups at the NRA, claiming they diverted charitable donations to irresponsible personal spending on behalf of the executive team. The NRA's lobbying might once was vast. It unnerved a lot of politicians who like to talk about gun law reform, but really couldn't get around the amount of money this group had. But the group's stubborn inaction in the wake of America's pre-pandemic spate of mass shootings turned public opinion against them, and the financial scandals stripped them of much of their seeming invincibility. The Texas move feels like an opportunity for a regroup, but whether they'll ever be able to regain their former power remains to be seen.
Tyler, can you reread what the actual charge of fraud is, the way you phrased it? Because I actually think that is personally the most interesting. I feel like, look, man, there's a lot of people who have a lot of thoughts about gun ownership, but I feel like one of the most interesting parts of this story, read that line one more time, Tyler.
Sure. So the summary is it's a $64 million fraud, claiming the NRA has diverted charitable donations to irresponsible personal spending on behalf of the executive team. I do have a link to more. If you want to read more about that lawsuit, you can check it out, relevantmagazine.com. And it's pretty astonishing. It's some pretty wild claims about just how much the NRA's executive team spent on things like vacations and dinners and fancy drinks.
Well, here's why I feel like that charge is so interesting and could have implications beyond just kind of discussions about the, ethics of gun ownership in America, because I wonder how many ministries could or large religious institutions could also have that same charge levied at them. Maybe not to the tune of $64 million, but executive spending donor money for lavishness it's like that's beyond common. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many other charitable donations, particularly religious ones, who oftentimes treat ministers as if they're like rock star, as is like, 90s era Bono going to one of those concerts where they have a stage that encircles a stadium. It's like a lot of people in the nonprofit space, particularly the religious nonprofit space, treat their executives like celebrities. And if an organization like the NRA, which doesn't obviously have direct religious affiliations, can come under scrutiny and ultimately bring their organization to bankruptcy because of charges of fraud. Again, how many other ministries or religious institutions which operate as nonprofits could this also be levied against? Because I think we've all been to churches where it's like, well, how much did it cost the helicopter the pastor in this morning? You know what I mean? Like, I get he's got the 11 o'clock service after the 9, and it's quicker to do the helicopter than it is to drive. But at the same time, what is that? How much does it cost to fuel a helicopter? You know what I mean? Like, if this can bring the NRA, scrutiny, imagine how many, basically, like, prosecutors, if they wanted to, could levy the same thing at some mega churches,
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple of organizations that do keep an eye on that for churches and religious organizations. I think the biggest one is called Church Clarity, who try to keep tabs on things like that. And you can check their website for churches that release that information. And obviously not all of them do. And obviously there's discretionary spending, right? You can take your staff out to a dinner or something like that. But we're talking about, in the case of the NRA here, $64 million. Like, that's a lot of nice dinners for your staff.
That's a whole lot of dinners.
I'm intrigued too, though. The headline was NRA declares bankruptcy, and people who are more for gun control or common sense gun control celebrated that. Like, yay, they're going away, and then their statement is nothing's going to change. I'm like, wait, what? So like, I'm curious how this will all play out, and if they're just trying to put up a positive front, but they really are struggling and limping into the future. I don't know.
Struggling.
Are they moving to Dallas, Tyler?
I don't think they know yet.
Oh, okay.
Just Texas generally.
It feels like a Dallas.
Feels like a Dallas move.
If I'm Wayne LaPierre, I'm
heading to
Dallas.
Yeah.
Maybe Houston, but probably Dallas.
Yeah.
They've seen a big dip in funding. There's obviously some spin going on in that statement from Wayne LaPierre. Like, nobody declares bankruptcy because things are going well.
Right.
And there's nothing bad happening. But are they going to vanish? Not if they have anything to say about it, obviously, but it's a really different time for the NRA than it was. And it does seem like that they have failed to stay sort of ahead of the culture, and they've been very reactionary instead of proactive, which is what somebody in their position would obviously want to be. So if they can change the culture of the NRA, become a lobbying firm for reasonable gun control, which they could maybe make that kind of pivot, then they could be back around, but they're obviously not going to, especially with an incoming Democratic administration. Joe Biden has talked a lot about gun control while he's been on the campaign trail. He probably has plans on that front, and they're probably not going to have a whole lot of sway with this administration.
Yeah. It is interesting that Gen Z, the top two issues to them are climate change and gun control. Yeah. And, the cultural shift is inevitable in that way. So it'll be interesting to see how relevant and the NRA becomes as honestly their base ages out.
Yeah. Base is aging out. Again, that could go to a lot of organizations right now that are going to have to look long and hard about how they position what they do and who they're serving, And I think that's a good thing, I mean, look, it's the younger generation is inheriting not just our economy and our environment, but also the social institutions that kind of dictate day-to-day American life. And so as they kind of come into ownership with stuff, I think a lot of organizations are going to need to rethink their approach to their general mission to make sure it's actually affecting the people that are going to kind of carry the torch,
It is interesting in all the tumult of the last year, especially with COVID and the political, the election year and all that. We haven't heard much about gun control or gun reform because there haven't been the mass shootings that prompted the outcry. And the mass shootings haven't happened because kids aren't in school and there aren't big gatherings.
Jeez.
And it's just interesting that as life gets back to normal, that gun issues and violence are going to become more of the conversation. As COVID wanes, other forms of violence will probably reemerge. And it's scary to think about, but
Scary.
All right. Well, thanks, Tyler. There's a lot more where that came from. You can check out all of our daily coverage at relevantmagazine.com and follow us on all the socials. Stay tuned. Up next, Dr. Russell Moore joins us.
Good God Almighty, I hope you'll find me praising your name no matter what comes. 'Cause I know where I'd be without your mercy. So I keep praising your name at the top of my lungs. Tell me, is he good? Tell me, is he God?
We're listening to Crowder. The song is Good God Almighty. Well, Dr. Russell Moore is an author and head of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. We recently talked to him about his thoughts on how he's praying for a new administration and how the church can rise above divisiveness moving forward. He has been an important and leading voice in this conversation about Christian nationalism and church and politics. Here's part of our conversation with Dr. Russell Moore.
Okay, so in your piece that you wrote about the events that happened at the Capitol, the attempted insurrection, you said you wanted to avoid the idea of saying "I told you so" with regards to the Trump administration. Can you unpack that idea a little more? Why don't you want to say "I told you so"?
Well, I think that it's not helpful to say to one another, "I told you so," precisely because we ought to be open to changing our minds on all kinds of things. And so I don't like the mentality that goes around a lot right now, which is to say, if you are on the other side of me on whatever, you can never we can never be together. Not just that we can never work together on some other issues, but we can never work together on this issue because I don't expect you to ever change your mind. And I think I look back at a lot of people in my life where I would think very differently than I would have before, who gave me an on-ramp to be able to see their point of view. And I'm really grateful that they didn't give up on me and say, you can never change your mind.
How should Christians prioritize that kind of unity? How should we have disagreements that come before unity? How do we have discernment about that?
Well, I think if we look back at the New Testament, many of these questions were there then. And so I think if we look at if there are issues that are going to cause the gospel to be compromised in terms of our witness to the outside world or to one another, that's in a very different category than differences of opinion that we might have with one another. And when there are issues that are going to hurt vulnerable people, I can't say it's divisive to talk about caring for the man who is beaten on the side of the road to Jericho. We have to show mercy, even if that mercy is seen to be divisive. And then I think if one looks at, say, Book of Romans, there's a different categorization of some things that are essential to our unity, and then other things. Paul talks about the eating only of vegetables, where we shouldn't bind one another's consciences, and we ought to move forward in disagreement. And frankly, we all have those categorizations just in the way that we live our life. We're willing to sit around the dinner table and disagree about all kinds of things, but we wouldn't disagree on issues about whether or not arson in our house is okay or so forth. So I think we all do that every day.
Something that stuck out to me is you also mentioned in your writing this idea of being very lonely because of your beliefs about the Trump administration. This is something that we at Relevant have heard a lot of, people who have these convictions about politics that tend to make them feel isolated. What would you say to people who are maybe feeling cut off from their community, their church, maybe even their family because of what they believe?
I've heard from tons of people, over the years, but maybe especially this week, who have felt it's a different kind of loneliness, because it's not just that one has a different point of view than someone else. It's because we're in a moment where often that point of view is responded to with a threat of exile, which is to say, if you're not even just abstracting a little bit from the president, we're in a moment where politics is so ultimate feeling to everyone that this becomes a tribal identification. If you're not completely and 100% on board with me, then that means that you're not part of me. And so that can lead to a real sense of isolation when people are saying, if you're not on board with this, then you're something different than what we are. And there's a sense of pain that comes along with that.
You mentioned the hyper-politicization of the church. Do you have any sense historically of how this happened? How did politics and Christianity become so intertwined, so synonymous?
I think in much the same way that, say, Protestant liberalism de-emphasized the supernatural because of what seemed more real in terms of neighbor love abstracted from love of God. That's a very easy thing to happen. And it has happened in American evangelicalism, where political identity seems more real, which is one of the reasons why, and this predates the Trump era by a lot. I remember saying over a decade ago that I know congregations where Sunday school classes were divided over Sarah Palin in far greater numbers than I knew churches where Sunday school classes were divided over the Trinity or hypostatic union or something else. And so I think that's part of it. And then the other part of it is that political, especially the sort of political, I don't want to use the word activism because that gives the impression that people are being active. The sort of armchair political punditry that everyone does now can give an illusion of life.
A theory you run into a lot is that part of the way that this happened is because Protestants, particularly evangelicals, have become very interested in the apocalyptic in the book of Revelations and Daniel. And then they've mapped this idea, a lot of theories around the end times, onto politics. Do you think there's any truth to that theory?
No, I think it's actually the opposite of that. I think that people who don't have a sense of the apocalyptic in the biblical sense of the apocalyptic replace it with something that's apocalyptic in the pop culture way. And so if one actually looks at the actual apocalypse in the book of Revelation, what one sees is a peering behind the veil that says to people who are in a really difficult situation in the Roman Empire, the ones who are seated on thrones with the reigning Lord Jesus are those who are beheaded. So there's a different sense of triumph and a different sense of winning than what one would see from Caesar. And so you can endure. This is that message is being given so often in the apocalypse. This is a call to endurance to those who can overcome. I remember saying to my wife when I first came into this position, if you ever hear me say the words, this is the most important presidential election in our lifetime, here are the people to call to come take the keys away from me, because I've been hearing that all my life. But that happens also, I see that happening in churches where some disagreement with the pastor turns into this this moment where the future of our church is at stake all the time. And often I find myself saying I said this not long ago to someone, you have lost the ability to say, I'm just kind of irritated by that, as opposed to, this is either something I love or this is an existential threat to me that we will not survive, and nothing else. That's unhealthy, I think.
We've talked a lot about what's gotten us to this point. Let's talk about the future a little bit. What do you think needs to happen in the American church to pull ourselves and this country out of the spiral?
Well, I think part of it is if one thinks about the old book Exit, Voice, and Loyalty, about the fact that one can often choose to exit or to remain and to exercise a voice. I think we have to be the people who are choosing voice more than we're choosing exit. And I think right now there are many people who have grown discouraged and they've grown cynical, and they're just leaving. And they're just, I mean, I'm having this conversation every day with people. And so I would just say we can't give up. We have to really understand that this is important for us to stay in this, and for, and I think that what tends to happen sometimes is that the people who are the most, I mean, it's the same thing. If you look at these sort of city council meetings or town hall meetings that we would see so often during COVID, where people are coming to the microphone and screaming, wearing a mask is a violation and COVID's a hoax or whatever. It's usually not the majority of people in that town, but those are the people who show up to the town hall meeting and who get behind the microphone. And everyone else is just sort of living their lives. We have to come to the microphones, including the people who are seeing things in a different way.
That was Dr. Russell Moore. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Relevant Recommends, and then What's Jesse Thinking?
Vision, we are an unusual couple. We don't have a song or even wedding rings.
Well, we could rather do that. I do. Do you?
I do.
Just moved to town, a regular husband and wife.
Every week on Relevant Recommends, we recommend a new album, book, show, movie, or even a video game that's got our attention and we think is worth your time. This week, we're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first real foray into TV, Disney Plus's WandaVision. So one of the complaints you hear about Marvel movies is that it's hard to know what's going on if you haven't seen them all, and that's super fair. The MCU is more like a very expensive TV show with 2-hour episodes, and just because you're only interested in, say, Black Panther stuff doesn't mean you can skip the Ant-Man stuff if you really want to follow along. Now, WandaVision, the MCU's first real foray into actual TV, kind of subverts this critique a little. It might be easier to follow along with if you're unfamiliar with what came before. So the show kicks off playing like a straightforward 1960s sitcom, most obviously echoing the likes of Bewitched and The Donna Reed Show. Wanda, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and Vision, Paul Bettany, have settled into an idyllic pastiche of golden age sitcom suburbs, complete with overbearing neighbors and demanding bosses, a canned laugh track, and even separate beds. Of course, in the tradition of the shows they're taking cues from, the happily married couple isn't as normal as they seem. Vision's a robot, Wanda's got reality manipulating powers, and those are both the source of plenty of neighborhood hijinks. But of course, everything gets happily wrapped up by the time the credits roll, and Vision gives Wanda a little peck on the rosy cheeks, and everything goes back to normal, or does it? 2 episodes in, and the show only drops a few sparse hints that all is not quite as it seems. A splash of color in the black and white here, an ominous beekeeper there, and every now and then a glitch in the Matrix in which all the happy clappy going on gets a little creepily plastic. There's some clear homages to David Lynch in those. Now, Marvel diehards might recognize a few clues as to what's really going on here, but even the biggest comic book nerds are in the dark about just who or what is pulling the strings. Anyone who's seen the most recent Avengers movies knows that something's clearly up, because we all saw Vision die, twice actually, in Infinity War, so what's going on? That's why the show might be more interesting for casual fans who come to it looking for some fun throwbacks to the Nick at Night era of TV and a juicy mystery creeping at the edges than it would be for anyone who looks for like a superheroics. So far there's no spandex, there's no explosions, there's no talking raccoons, there's no thunder gods, the special effects are practical, the stakes don't get higher than preparing a nice dinner or winning the neighborhood talent show, and what there is just wonderful. Elizabeth Olsen doing really good work. She fully inhabits her new role as a doting housewife, and she does her best work really whenever the facade starts to slip and she has to try to keep things under control. Kathryn Hahn also doing really good work. She's a treat. She's really clearly enjoying herself, the opportunity to ham it up as a nosy neighbor named Agnes. And we've seen enough footage from upcoming episodes to know the show is planning to do a tour through sitcom eras. We've got throwbacks to shows like The Brady Bunch and Family Ties, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and of course the Olsen family launchpad Full House are all in the works. It seems inevitable that at some point the show will lurch into full-blown superhero stuff, but for the time being it's a very ambitious and really, really fun exploration of comic book melodrama and television history. We recommend it. That's all for this week. Check out more Relevant Recommends at relevantmagazine.com.
I won't let you down, no, I won't leave you. No matter what comes our way, we gon' make do. When the river runs dry, I won't give up on you, give up on you. Yeah, give up on you.
You're listening to Emotional Oranges featuring Child. Song is Bonafide. Okay, it's time for our brand new third installment of our new segment.
What's Jesse thinking? Huh?
Hey, Jesse, this week, what are you thinking?
I'll tell you what I was thinking first. If I was in Marine One flying away, like at what point am I like, hey, excuse me, Mr. Marine Corporal, I think I left the phone charger next to the bed. Can I just pop in the Lincoln room real quick? I was doing that's my one good charger. I marked it. It says my name on it. Okay. Like that's how important it is. I marked it. There's 2 little dots. That means it's mine. Okay. No one else's. Can we just circle back? What losing a charger is the worst. Okay. You get one with the iPhone. Okay. Let's just pop in real quick. Joe won't even know I'm there. I just need to peek in. Grab it. It's right by the bedside table. He won't even know I'm there. No, I was thinking that, but that's not what I'm thinking this today. Okay, what I'm thinking is there may be a really weird solution to the national debt crisis. As you guys may be aware, right now, because of a variety of factors, including, a lot of the culmination of a lot of policy decisions, from stimulus packages to tax cuts, the result has been a national debt that has never been higher. It is terrifyingly high right now.
4 years ago, it was $19 trillion, and today it's $28 trillion.
That's a lot of trillions. Yeah.
You said what? Run that back one more time.
Yeah.
4 years ago, our national debt was $19 trillion, and today it's $28 trillion. It has grown $9 trillion in the last 4 years because of what Jesse said, policy and economic challenges and whatnot.
Yeah. And that money, how that money works is the United States borrows money from a lot of times other nations, and, those nations charge interest, and it's been a pretty safe bet, but for those other nations lending money. But as, incoming lawmakers are trying to think about solutions where they can provide stimulus to the American people, and particularly small businesses who have suffered pretty dramatically under COVID, part of the the sticking point is, well, how much do we give to the American people? You know, we saw a first bill that passed that was like $600. Then they, you know, I think the Biden administration wants to do one for $1,400. There's been talk of a $2,000 stimulus. But the problem it always comes back to is, well, where's this money going to come from? We're going to have to borrow more. It's going to add some trillions to the mounting debt. Well, you guys know me. I love weird stories about weird loopholes and people deciding to do weird things. And I am all about an idea that could solve all of these problems because of a strange loophole that Congress passed in 1997. That gave the Secretary of the Treasury the authority to mint platinum coins. Now, it only applies to platinum coins. And the reason is because that's the metal that they like to make commemorative coins out of. And you can, so the government can make these kind of nostalgic looking collectible coins. So like, let's say they wanted to fund the building of a monument or something. Okay. You could do the price of you could figure out what the price of the monument was and say, hey, we're going to do a run of Golden Eagle, you know, Martin Luther King monument, $10 coins, and it would have an eagle. You know what I'm saying? Like they would sell it and it would help funding. Well, some enterprising economists are floating a very interesting idea. If anyone's interested, Radiolab did a really interesting story on this 2 weeks ago. So these economists have thought of a really interesting idea that could give us a loophole to come up with a couple $1 trillion to immediately give to the American people without incurring the national debt. And this, I love this story so much. The idea is that Congress would pass a law that would say that the Secretary of the Treasury must mint $1 trillion platinum coin, maybe two. And at that point, the Federal Reserve would have to, they would pass a law that the Federal Reserve would have to purchase these $1 trillion coins from the Treasury Department and immediately creating out of nothing $2 trillion, and the backing of those $2 trillion would be two different platinum coins, and that money would be used for the stimulus. So a lot of economists are like, okay, we know what everyone's concerned here is instant inflation, right? You're just creating money out of nothing. We already do that, and according to a lot of the research from really smart economists, that they don't think that this would actually cause inflation because inflation has been so flat, and the mechanisms that typically cause inflation are actually in practice not what really causes money to lose its value. It's not the more money that goes into the system, increases the ability to purchase commodities. It's that consumer expectations. If they think prices are going to get high, that's why they get high. And so it is a really interesting solution. My only thing is, someone's got to look after these coins, okay? Like, could you imagine being the guy at the Treasury Department? Like, hey, listen, no big deal. I don't want to worry anyone. But has anyone seen, it's about that big eagle on one side, a monument on the other. Platinum says 1 trillion, got a bunch of zeros on it. No big deal.
I left it by my phone charger.
It's got to be around here, guys. It's got to be around here. There's only 2 of them, and one is missing. So, no, but it is...
But why don't they just print 28 of them?
Well, they could. Theoretically, they could. But the idea is they would start with 1 or 2 just to kind of understand the economic impact they would have.
So we drive up the debt and then we pay it off by making new money.
So they're not suggesting doing it to the extent that we would pay off the national debt.
Right.
They're doing it as a mechanism to instantly create stimulus money. Because if you were to pay off the entire debt with it, then you could be running into inflation. But if you just did a couple, you could actually, the case is with 2 coins, think about how crazy that is. 2 coins, you could turn the entire, hypothetically, infuse $2 trillion into the economy instantly. This is such a weird, I just love that there's a weird loophole for collectible coins. And because of that loophole, we might save the economy. That is a crazy and awesome, just concept.
The thing that's crazy is if you start doing this and you make your money, I mean, the US dollar is like kind of underwrites the global, currency market. If you just start like manufacturing more money, then your money gets worthless, and then you turn into like what's going on in Nigeria
or Venezuela, where they have hyperinflation.
Venezuela. I mean, like $5 in the US is $2,000 in Nigeria, in Nigerian dollars. And Nigeria has an annual inflation rate of like 12 to 15% every year. I mean, it's just their money's worthless. And so $5 is now $2,000. It didn't used to be like that. I mean, so like that, if that happens in the US, the whole global currency market kind of collapses.
Well, that's what economists are actually saying, that probably if they do it in small enough proportions, that won't be a concern, because unlike Venezuela and unlike Nigeria, the American economy isn't based on, Venezuela, part of the reason why and the same thing with Nigeria is, one, they were instability contributed to the loss of value of their currency, right. But also they back their currency in a hard commodity, which happened to be oil, which when a global pandemic hit, oil lost almost all its value because no one's traveling and burning it.
And ours is backed by gold, right?
Yeah.
The gold standard.
It was, but actually we went off the gold standard, I think it was about 70 or 80 years ago. And so there's actually nothing backing it other than the strength of the American economy. So that's why they think these two platinum coins could potentially offer a fresh
So
way
if our
of thinking
economy
about
stays
stimulus.
strong, our dollar stays strong. So
Exactly.
you can print more dollars and they're strong. That's interesting.
But they're probably not going to do this coin thing because they don't do cool stuff. They don't do just cool random stuff. They'd be like, dude, $2 trillion platinum coins? That's like the plot of a movie right there, because someone's going to go steal them. It's going to be awesome.
Yes.
We got a coin heist. Okay, it's a whole Netflix series. Coin heist. I'm in.
Who's the main guy starring it? Who's the main guy?
Gerard Butler, no question. Gerard Butler. Like, straight to DVD, straight to VOD, coin heist starring Gerard Butler. So that's just Gerard Butler. Any kind of Jamie, the answer for any question that it's a espionage thriller or a heist movie is Gerard Butler.
Okay.
And it's like, is this straight to VOD? Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin Hart.
Sorry.
Kevin Hart's the sidekick.
We're gonna steal those 2 coins. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah. Gerard Butler like lowers Kevin Hart down into like the National Mint, like through the ductwork, and he gets stuck in there. Hey, get me out of here, guys! He's stuck in there with the coins. No, but here's another solution. Okay, this one's easy. You call up every cabinet secretary first day in office. All right, Secretary of Education, Defense, all of them. Get them together and be like, here's your envelope. Here's your envelope. Here's your envelope. On the outside is a number, and that's how much cash is in there. Go the Ramsey system. Okay, we'll have a balanced budget because everyone's just got an envelope full of cash. Once it's out, you're out of luck till next payday, Chief. So here's the thing: we either do the envelope system or the two coins. I don't see another way here, and I'm down for either. Okay. They're both fantastic ideas and really cool.
We can just, spend less than we generate and then use the surplus to pay off the debt over time. There you go.
We want the $1 trillion collector coins because I want to be involved in a $1 trillion coin heist. Is that too much to ask? Be awesome.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's.
What's Jesse thinking? Oh?
Well, many thanks to Dr. Russell Moore for joining us today. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Dr. Moore. It's DRMOORE. Just an important voice out there. Stay connected with him. Also, while you're connecting, make sure to check out the all-new Relevant Recommends column every Friday at relevantmagazine.com. It'll be what you just heard, plus more of the picks about what we're into this week at Relevant. Go check it out. And while you're there, make sure to check out the new issue of Relevant. The January-February issue features Pharrell on the cover and some other great content. You can read it now in its entirety for free. Just go to relevantmagazine.com and click on the magazine tab. There it is. On that note, we'll wrap it up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Jamie Ivey.
I'm Derek Miner.
We will see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Does someone have an Old Testament?
Relevant Podcast Network.